Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're doing well. We had the first Mithridatic War, 89-85 BC. This is House of History. Glad you're here with us. Roman Republic, continuation of our history, like continuation, right? Of the Roman Republic. This is going to have to do with the Pontus region, kingdom, I think. Pontus kingdom. This is around the Black Sea. You got Bithynia, I think, which is, I'm not sure if it's a Roman vassal state, but they're definitely an ally, I believe, of the Romans. So you got the Bithynia and Rome versus Pontus and Mithridatic War. I think the guy's name is Mithridatic. King. I don't know. We're gonna learn. We're gonna learn. Glad you're here with us. Let's go. Let's see what we got.
In 89 BC, King Nicomedes IV of Bithynia and his large army marched along the Amnias River, across an open plain, invading the neighboring kingdom of Pontus. They noticed a small infantry force of presumably Pontic soldiers securing the strategic position as they approached the hill. His scouts informed him all there was ahead was a Pontic reconnaissance party, nothing his soldiers would not be able to handle. Nicomedes was confident this would be a quick victory and morale boost for his troops. He ordered his men forward. It should be an easy victory.
Okay.
Preceding the battle of the Amnias River, it is essential to understand the reign of one man in particular. In 120 BC, 15-year-old Mithridates ascended to the throne of the Hellenistic kingdom of Pontus. Early on, it already became clear he was focused on expanding his territory, and he did not shy away from using any means necessary to achieve his goals. But most of his neighboring states were Roman client states. Any attack against them surely would warrant a military response by the mighty Roman Republic.
Yeah, the hegemonic power of our age.
To the south lay the kingdom of Cappadocia, to the west the kingdom of Bithynia, with Galatia and Paphlagonia as buffers. To his east lay the kingdom of Armenia, a wealthy kingdom that was increasing in power. Still, the kingdom was easy to defend and difficult to invade, including the welcome buffer it provided between Pontus and the predatory Parthian Empire. But to the southeast lay Armenia Minor, a wealthy region that lay for the taking. So, around 115 BC, Mithridates marched a large army into Armenia Minor. He asked his king to hand over the kingdom, and he did so without putting up
that was easy.
Any fight. Having secured the southeastern border of his kingdom, a bit of luck struck him. To the north, the Greeks who had settled on current-day Crimea were threatened by Scythian invaders. Not being able to withstand an invasion themselves, they wrote to Mithridates and asked for his help. He happily sent over an army. They decisively defeated the Scythians and subjugated the local tribes on the peninsula. Then they crossed the Azov Sea, marching into the kingdom of Bosphorus. Suffering its own internal turmoil, the king was all too happy to hand over his throne to Pontus.
This is becoming a large region really quickly. They've almost doubled their territory.
Mithridates had not even ruled Pontus for a decade and had already expanded his territory significantly. Following solidifying his positions in the north, Mithridates looked to the east. Colchis lay to the north of the kingdom of Armenia, and Mithridates probably rightfully estimated that if he did not capture it, giving access to the Black Sea, Armenia certainly would. Not much is known about the actual conquest or inheritance. What is known is that before too long, a Pontic governor saw to day-to-day business. Mithridates put the majority of the eastern Black Sea coast under Pontic controls. And in the years...
I wonder why they didn't connect, right? They're so close. Bosphorus and Colchis, they're so close to each other. It would make sense. It almost would make sense as a motivation for Pontus to connect his empire on land this way, or his kingdom on land, but there's a gap.
After, he appeared to be successful in expanding it to the west. He fought local tribes, and archaeological findings indicate he controlled territories from Tyrus to Mesembria. All these recently conquered territories were allowed to retain their kings as long as they paid tribute to Pontus. While consolidating his territories to the north, east and west, political turbulence on Asia Minor remained part of his day-to-day life. The Cappadocian king Ariathus VI married Mithridates' older sister, giving him ample opportunity to influence its politics. But as time progressed and Pontus expanded, Rome too understood they had to tame the kingdom. They sent an envoy to Cappadocia and told Ariathus they would support the bid for complete independence. It appears the king responded positively to these suggestions. It also is clear that news leaked to Mithridates. He sent an assassin, Gordius, who killed the king. His widow, Mithridates' sister, now continued the reign, formally acting as her underage son's regent. Rome would surely make known their discontent if Mithridates were to grant himself too much liberty. But Rome was encumbered with constant invasions by barbarian tribes from the north and an incredibly unruly Numidian king, Jugurtha, who went
Oh, so this is happening all at the same time.
against Rome's policies any chance he got. Mithridates had tasted victory, and he wanted more. Together with King Nicomedes of Bithynia, they annexed the entirety of Paphlagonia.
Wow.
After splitting it with Nicomedes, he invaded
It was a partition.
Galatia on his own, expanding his kingdom further westward. These actions could not go unpunished, and they wouldn't. Rome sent a delegation to Bithynia and Pontus demanding they return the territories and halt their expansionist ways. Mithridates
Rome. Rome says halt your expansionist ways. How dare you? How dare you expand your territory? Ironic.
ensured the delegation he would. The delegation left, satisfied, and Mithridates ignored their every demand. Instead, as soon as they left, he helped himself to a larger portion of Galatia. Meanwhile, Nicomedes too tasted the success of going rogue. But to his west and south lay actual Roman provinces, and the king understood he should not bite off more than he could chew. So instead, he led his army on a daring march through Pontus-occupied Galatia into Cappadocia. Mithridates' sister, who was still upset her brother killed her husband, eagerly
Yeah, like, that's casual.
married him. Offended and insulted,
Whoa, that's like some weird revenge family drama right there.
Mithridates sent a massive army across the border to expel the newlyweds. He then reinstalled his nephew on the throne, but his nephew wasn't planning on being his uncle's vassal. With Armenian financing, he raised his own army in record time. Mithridates set up a meeting to resolve the conflict with diplomacy. At the meeting, he killed his nephew,
Bro is rogue. He is rogue.
installing his own son on the Cappadocian throne with Gordius as his regent. The region can be rightfully described as a pretty troublesome one. Around 99 BC, Consul Marius diverted his attention to the east again. The subsequent diplomatic mission to Pontus made clear Mithridates should stop his antics and forced him to grant Cappadocia independence. Instead, Mithridates began using proxies to exert his influence. For example, when in 94 BC Nicomedes III passed away, Mithridates supported one of his bastards to seize the throne and expel his son, the legitimate heir. He also goaded Armenian king Tigranes II to invade Cappadocia and install Gordius on the throne once more. This gross violation was one step too far for the Romans, who considered themselves to have been very patient with Mithridates.
Dang, it's a lot of territory. Lucius Cornelius Sulla.
The Romans had just the man for the job. Lucius Cornelius Sulla made a name for himself as an able military commander against King Jugurtha of Numidia. Around the time, he was already on the way to Asia Minor to deal with the pirate problem on its southern coast. Meanwhile, Mithridates continued building up his army and navy, gaining naval supremacy and levying troops from conquered territories. Meanwhile, Rome suffered from instability as the social war broke out between Romans and Italian tribes. As war waged on, Rome sent an envoy to Asia Minor to reinstall the kings of Cappadocia, Bithynia, and restore Paphlagonia. But the Roman envoy, Manius Aquilus, also received the specific task to immobilize the rogue Pontic king. Initially, Mithridates only received the orders to reinstall the kings immediately. He understood he would not be able to face Rome's military might. But to his surprise, after reinstalling the kings, Aquilus ordered the new Bithynian and Cappadocian kings to raid Pontus. Only Nicomedes, king of Bithynia and heavily indebted to Rome, agreed to this near-suicide mission. In 90 BC, he sent an army into Pontus. Perhaps ironically, these raids were a fantastic propaganda tool for Mithridates, especially because Aquilus began openly organizing an invasion of Pontus. Rome didn't have many legions stationed in Asia Minor. Sulla had to make do by raising local auxiliary units. King Nicomedes, Cappadocia, and the Galatians contributed many troops, hoping to increase their control in the region. The plan was to invade Pontus from the south and west. On Pontus's southern and western borders stood Roman commanders, ready to invade. However, the first combat would not be between Mithridates and Roman commanders, but between a Pontic reconnaissance party and King Nicomedes' entire Bithynian army in the northwest.
Which is where the intro was. So far, pre-context of all this, Pontus has expanded drastically. There's been a lot of diplomatic change in Cappadocia, Galatia, Bithynia, a little bit in Armenia. Territory has been drastically increased up north. Naval expansion for Pontus, and yeah, here we are.
As part of the invasion, King Nicomedes marched a large army into the highlands of Paphlagonia, marching through the valley of the river Amnias. He planned to follow a well-known road leading into the Pontic heartland. Then, if all went well, he would bend south and unite his army with the Romans. But close by, danger loomed. Mithridates' main force camped at Chiliokomon, current-day Assar. Mithridates' scouts stationed around the border informed the military encampment a large Bithynian army was marching into Pontus. But they weren't sure if it was an actual invasion or another raid like earlier that year. After sending another scouting party, the Pontic generals wrongly assumed it was just a scouting party. A few of them took up the task to take care of the invaders. Together with his Armenian horsemen, Pontic general Arcathius set out to stop the Bithynians. General Neoptolemus and Archelaus joined him. Together with the Armenian cavalry, light infantry, and heavy scythed chariots, they moved north.
Yeah, we don't really hear too much about chariots when we talk about Rome and warfare in the Republic at this time, but here they are, and it's really an Eastern power.
Numbers are unknown. The army numbered around 10,000 Armenian cavalry and an unknown number of light infantry. However, it was certain only a fraction of the 250,000 strong main Pontic army participated. Meanwhile, Nicomedes and his heavy infantry and cavalry slowly trekked south along the Amnias River. Among his troops were approximately 50,000 infantry soldiers and 6,000 cavalry. The armies approached each other around several elevations amidst the open plain they marched on. The Pontic generals ordered an infantry contingent to seize the hills to secure a strategic advantage and defensive position. But Nicomedes too saw the rocky outcrop. He ordered his army to take their battle positions. His front center line was manned by his light infantry, peltasts. His flanks were manned by his phalanx, while he himself commanded the cavalry. On his left, another phalanx guarded the rear. Instead of a minor vanguard, he ordered his entire army forward. The small Pontic unit was at risk of encirclement and fled upon seeing the approaching army. In response, Neoptolemus ordered his infantry forward, while the Armenian cavalry protected his right flank from the rear. Archelaus and his light infantry now swerved to the left side to prevent the concentration of Bithynian force against Neoptolemus. The center of Pontus's army charged into the center of Bithynia's heavy infantry. Heavy, close combat fighting broke out. The Armenian cavalry charged into the Bithynian front line as well. The Bithynians inflicted heavy damage on the Pontic infantry, and before too long, troops began crumbling. They would not be able to keep up this fight for long. Archelaus and his light infantry now launched their attack into the Bithynian right flank. They faced a Bithynian phalanx positioned there.
I mean, it looks like the Bithynians might have the upper hand here, but not sure yet.
And faced challenging and brutal close combat. But at least they relieved the pressure from the center. Neoptolemus ordered his infantry to retreat briefly to regroup and prepare for the next charge. In contrast to his battered army, Arcathius' cavalry had been packing a serious punch. He pulled back as well to regroup. Realizing his cavalry actually outmatched the Bithynians, he figured his cavalry was better used outmaneuvering the larger immobile army rather than charging into the front lines. He now tried to look for an opening on his right flank to circumvent the Bithynians and encircle them.
I mean, you should have done that a long time ago, Brady. It's almost too late at this point.
The hill provided welcome cover for his maneuvering. To distract the enemy even more, he he ordered the heavy chariots to launch an attack against the Bithynian left flank. Roman historian Appian described the scene. The chariots were driven at high speed into the Bithynian ranks. Some men were sliced into two within an eye blink, others were practically shredded. The army of Nicomedes saw men in two halves, yet still alive and breathing. Others sliced to pieces, their mangled organs still hanging from the sides. They had by no means lost the battle, yet the sight was so hideous that
I guess are they not used to facing chariots? Why didn't they just let them go by them?
they were overcome with confusion, fear, and disorder in their ranks. Upon seeing the onslaught, Neoptolemus ordered his men to attack. They charged into the Bithynian infantry. Because the Bithynian phalanx was fighting on two fronts, parts of their line slowly began opening up, and their army formation became disorganized, a grave danger for phalanx. Then suddenly the Bithynians suffered an even worse blow.
I mean, Pontus's troops right here, they're holding. Just depends on that cavalry, if they can, that Armenian mercenary cavalry, if they can actually do that loop.
Arcathius managed to travel around the hill
Oh my
and
gosh,
unexpectedly turned up behind the entire Bithynian army. Pontus had the Bithynians in a pincer movement. With a loud rallying cry, the Armenians charged into the rear of the phalanx, guarding the left flank. As circled, and with no way to escape, the Bithynians continued the brutal fight, albeit briefly. Nicomedes understood that even if he could turn the fight, he was only facing a reconnaissance party of the Pontic army. The main army was not even there yet,
which is insane.
And his army was already in shambles. As such, he fled from the battlefield. According to Appian, he did not even order his troops to retreat.
All is lost, is what he was thinking probably.
But instead, his troops took their king running as a strong indication they probably should as well.
Oh, okay.
Those who weren't able to escape were captured, but Mithridatic didn't plan on executing his prisoners. He had other plans for the Bithynians. This major victory was a great morale boost for Mithridates. He made sure to exploit his propaganda value to the limit. However, he also understood he had a larger fight ahead of him. As such, he offered the Bithynian mercenaries to join his army, as he explained to them his real quarrel was with Rome. Following the Battle of Amnias, it is likely Mithridates welcomed thousands of new mercenaries into his army, exceeding
Would they actually defect though?
the losses suffered during the battle. He was stronger than ever. And Mithridates indeed had a larger fight ahead of him. The First Mithridatic War had only just broken out.
That's part one, guys. We're going to do these in 3 parts. This was Battle of the River Amnias between Bithynia and Pontus. I'm sure we'll see a continuation of Rome in the future, Sulla. But yeah, it's an interesting start. We'll see how Pontus continues, because that was a really good opening act by them. But that was Bithynia. That was not the Roman Empire. Or that Roman Empire doesn't even exist. That was not the Roman Republic. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Until next time, peace out. Bye-bye.